lot of evaporation happening here. There's a lot of evaporation happening here. There's a lot of evaporation happening here. Hello, I'm Rhys Duncan and I'm a Year 9 student at St Peter's, and I did my science fair on evaporation. My aim was to investigate the relationship between wind speed and evaporation rate. For my science fair I investigated evaporation of water due to wind, and I did this by simulating a pond and wind with a petri dish of meths. I used meths because water took too long to evaporate, and using a fan to simulate the wind. I put the petri dish at different distances to simulate different wind speeds, and used an anemometer to calculate the wind speeds at these distances. The key variables I controlled were the height of the meths off the floor, how much meths I used, the temperature and humidity of the room, and the temperature of the meths, and how long I left it for. When I calibrated the fan, I came up with a calibration curve, and this was the wind speed versus the distance from the fan. I found that the relationship between wind speed and volume of meths lost was linear, and for every 1 kilometre of wind per hour, the volume of meths decreased 2.6 millilitres in 2 hours. I think this project was important because it can be related to how much water is lost from reservoirs and lakes, and water is a very valuable resource and should be controlled. My science fair was sparked from living next to Lake Karapiro, and Lake Karapiro is an important lake because it has an electricity generator on it, and if the water levels drop, then the amount of electricity generated from the generators will change. I would make the improvements of making the experiment go for longer, 3 hours instead of 2 hours, and running more experiments. I also had to use meths because water didn't evaporate fast enough. I had lots of fun doing this science fair experiment, and I'd just like to thank the science faculty at St Peter's, my science teacher, Dr. Davies, and both my parents for helping organise me. A lot of evaporation happening here. There's a lot of evaporation happening here.